Reeves with us. Blair and her husband, Dr. Hugh Reeves, reside in Greenville, North Carolina, and they're fantastic. They have hit the ground running, to say the least. And so today, during our conversation, we're just going to explore a little bit about your journey here to HomeWell, Blair. We'd love to give the audience just a glimpse behind the mirror of, the good, the challenges, some of the successes you've had already, and just kind of go from there. But with that, I'd love to start out. I always like to start out at the beginning. So, as you and your husband Hugh, started the process, like what led you down this path to, one, looking into a franchise, but two, kind of settling on the home care space, and ultimately here with HomeWell.
All right. Well, I apologize, first of all, that my camera is not working. Technical difficulties. But I'm very honored to be here and that you all invited me. I guess to answer your questions, what started us down this journey is my husband is a full-time practicing urologist in Greenville, North Carolina. He's also been in the U.S. Army Reserve for over 20 years. And we have three grown children who are now all out of the home. So we're empty nesters. And he always said, I can't work any harder than I'm working as a physician. I have a background in healthcare. I have a Master of Healthcare Administration and worked in the healthcare consulting field for a number of years, and then opened my own business in real estate and, did that for some time. But, we were thinking about, things that we could do now that we were empty nesters that we could do together. And he reached out to a franchise consultant and just started talking about different opportunities. And so the consultant sort of, I guess he vetted about maybe 5 different companies for us to look at. And, everything from mobile pet grooming to insulation, and then, HomeWell Care Services came up. And that really sparked our interest, of course, because we both have a healthcare background, he from a clinical standpoint and me from more of a business standpoint. But in addition to that, over the past about 18 months, I've been on a really difficult journey with my own parents, dealing with in-home care. They are 3 hours away. My mom has very advanced dementia, and my dad was her full-time caregiver, but he was also having a lot of issues with his mobility. And I moved them into a retirement community, hoping that would help. But 5 days after they moved, he fell in the shower and late at night, ended up in the hospital. And we all know the story from there. Things just went downhill. And of course, he couldn't care for himself or my mom. And it was right at Christmas time, of course. And so, I'm struggling to get there, to still manage things back home. And I had the hardest time finding a reputable in-home care agency. Even we live in a much smaller town, but they live in a pretty big city in Greensboro. And even there, through a Google search or Place for Mom or whatever, just struggled. And we ended up with kind of a mom and pop type organization, which at the time, I was just thankful to have somebody there. But I have definitely seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of what that looks like. And, being 3 hours away, it was always very stressful because I never knew, who would be there, or if somebody was late, or what kind of care they were receiving. I mean, I was never receiving any updates. And it was just very frustrating. It was very scary. And I knew that this was something that our community and our state actually really, really needed in a big way. And anyway, as I started to learn more and more about HomeWell and the support, the training, the technology that's in place, things like the family room, that really spoke to me as a person in need for my parents who wanted that good care. And I'd even looked into moving them to our hometown in Greenville and couldn't find anything here. I mean, through a Google search, through calls, and people wouldn't return my calls. I mean, it was just amazing to me. And I just knew that our community needed this in a really important way, and that we could do a lot better, especially through the resources that HomeWell provides. I mean, and the resources are so vast and so deep, between the training, the software, the integrations that are capable through all types of different things to train our caregivers and recruit, that we were just really impressed. And anyway, so here we are, and we got our license. That was a process, but and every state's different, but in North Carolina, we are a licensure state. So, we have to get that through approved through the state. We put that in about, I want to say August, and didn't get approved until December 11th. But we were ready to go. I mean, we'd had staff since November. We were just waiting, and it worked out because I had that time to train everybody and, make sure that we could hit the ground running. So anyway, that's what led us to HomeWell. And it's been a really, I mean, I got to say, it's been really fun. I mean, there's times that it's been extremely stressful, but
Yes.
there's never a dull day. And especially now that we've gotten over that hump of, like with anything, that you start, of just learning, getting over the learning curve of learning the systems and figuring out how all of that works. Now that we're past that, it is, we're off and running.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, like a lot of franchise owners, the story of what led you to want to do this business. And one of the questions we get always on our side as people are learning about the opportunity and then the market is competition, right? And you spoke about it. You said in two or three different instances, you said there's places out there, but one, are they reputable? Two, can I trust them? And both through your personal experience and also obviously now on the other side of it, of being a home care owner, you probably, to your point, see the good and the bad with that. So can you kind of talk a little bit, because I think that's a fantastic point that you brought up about the competition of what you saw. You said you saw it as a consumer, that there was all these question marks you had. Is somebody going to show up? And how, as an owner of that, how do you combat that? And how does HomeWell help you combat that, to ensure that when the patients that you're serving and the clients that you're serving, they don't have those questions? They know you're going to be there and you're able to make them feel comfortable in that.
Right. Well, and that's huge. So I think a big differentiator that HomeWell provides is the feature of the family room, which I don't know if the folks on the call, have even gotten that far, but it's a so HomeWell uses this really robust software system to basically track everything that we do, from people who are calling in and just interested, to people who become clients, to the people we recruit as caregivers. And we can track all of that and come up with our care plans and tasks for the caregivers. But then there's a mirror side of that called the family room, where loved ones, friends, even the client themselves have access to log in, and they can see what the shift is for that day. Is it 8 to 12? Is it 8 to 8? And who's coming? And like, we even upload a picture of our caregiver so they know who's coming. And okay, so that does look like Tanya. And she's coming. And then it's geo-fenced. So there's two sides of that. There's the side that the family sees, but also the side that the caregiver has responsibility for, which I really loved, because it's geo-fenced and they have to clock in once they are at client's address. So you can see, as a family member, as a franchise owner, as the caregiver, when you've clocked in, that you're actually there. And then there's a list of tasks that have to be acknowledged before the end of the shift. So, if it's to make breakfast, you check that and it has a timestamp. But if it's maybe, and this is the one we see most often, to bathe the client, well, a lot of times they refuse to do that. So the caregiver still has to acknowledge it as incomplete, but then has to leave a comment explaining why it's incomplete. And so that's just a great tool. I mean, I just know that's a great tool for the family members to be able to say, okay, well, 3 days in a row, mom refused a bath. Like, okay, we know what's going on. How can do we need to have a conversation with the agency? Do we need to go have a conversation with her? What can we do to fix this? And so it just not only keeps the agency accountable, it keeps the caregivers accountable, and it gives the clients and their families that peace of mind of like, okay, Tanya's there. Like, okay, I can relax for the next 8 hours, and
Yeah.
it's really a fabulous feature. And I wish that I had that for my own parents, because they were really in a life or death situation where if somebody didn't show up, my dad was immobile and my mom was a
Yeah.
flight risk, and she had no idea where she was, and they lived on a busy street, so it was
Yeah.
very nerve-wracking to me, and I would have loved to have that type of feature available. So I feel like that's a huge differentiator, and it also helps me as an agency owner and our nurse and the other staff that we have to say, okay, well, wait a minute, what they're not bathing. Maybe we need to do an extra training module on that, with the caregiver. I mean, is it because the patient's review or the client's refusing, or is it because, maybe we need more training? So it's just very helpful all around. And so that's something I love.
Yeah, that's awesome feedback. And again, that goes into a part of what differentiates a HomeWell agency than some of your point mom and pops that are out there. Because listen, at the end of the day, there are a lot of there's competition in every market, but everybody does it a little bit differently. And when you walk into a family room and you're able to have that conversation with that family and that client and say, here's how we're going to help and here's how we're going to execute, and you have all the tools and technology behind you, it will differentiate you from everybody else out there. And I think that's a prime example of that, Blair. And frankly, I didn't even know we did that because I don't see it on this side of the fence. So thank you for explaining it
Well, no,
to
I mean,
us.
and when we do our care assessments, it's and so for the people who might not be at that point yet, have somebody who's interested, kind of the HomeWell model is to do a complimentary assessment in their home. And in our state, we have to have a nurse. So our nurse, and it's not like that everywhere, but in North Carolina it is. She'll go out, or my husband, because he's a physician, of course, and do that care assessment. And either I'll go or my operations person will go to speak to the maybe not more clinical care giving points but points like, these are features we have that are going to be really important for you. And it also, in addition to that, it's a hard decision for families to make,
Mhm.
to say, we're going to spend this money. I mean, it's a big step, but with the family room, they can also see all of the financials. And so that's a great way for us to be accountable as well, and for them to feel like, okay, I can see that she worked 8 hours and my bill reflects that. So when they get that invoice, there's just a sense of that, everything is reconciled, and it's legit.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And again, I think it's the quality of what we're able to equip you as a franchise owner with as you execute and run the business model. So let's talk a little bit about staffing. You mentioned that you have a nurse in North Carolina. You are, part of the state requirement is you have to have a nurse on staff. What does your office setup look like today? And what are the roles and responsibilities that are kind of, obviously your husband as a full-time doctor, that's kind of a big deal, and we want him to continue to do that because he takes care of patients that way. But how does that split between you guys? Like, what are your specific roles? Just kind of give a glimpse into how you guys are running the agency.
Okay, great. Well, I would say the number. So in our office, we have myself. And then I have a young gal also named Blair, if you can believe it, but we say two Blairs for the price of one. And she, I spent a lot of time recruiting and looking through resumes and just to find the perfect person. And she is young. She's about 26. She had 5 years of background in a very, very busy dental office here. Are y'all still with me? It's glitching a little bit.
Yes.
Okay. And she was just she was a manager there, kind of a jack of all trades. She had a degree from a nice college in North Carolina in business, and she felt like she was in a dead end job and could see the opportunity. And so I think that's something important to look for. Just somebody who is a problem, who also sees the opportunity of starting a new business. So she has been amazing. Really, I feel like that's been one of my biggest breaks, I guess, is having somebody like that. I mean, she's willing to put in time on vacations or after hours. But one way I try to balance that is on Fridays, we work from home. That doesn't mean we always do work from home. Sometimes we're doing interviews, sometimes we're doing paperwork, but this is a 24/7 business. And so it's important to find ways to keep your employees and to reward them. And I feel like we found a good way to do that. We made a lot of mistakes. I mean, we hired probably too many people out of the gate than we needed, and have pared down since then. But I think the most important thing for any agency is to have someone. So she started as our scheduler and recruiter, and she's still doing that, but she really has learned she could run this place in a couple of years. So that, I would say, that's the number one thing. Somebody who's hungry, who's a problem solver, maybe has some scheduling experiencing, because the scheduling can get kind of tricky. She's got amazing phone skills. She was taught that through her other job, and that's very important because we're constantly talking to, and you've got to have somebody who's good with phone skills on both sides, to be able to talk to a potential client, but also to talk to a caregiver. And those are two very different groups of people. And she is able to do that very well. So I have her. I have my other Blair. We did start out with a marketing and sales and marketing person, but that did not work out. She didn't really grasp. She came from hospice, which, I thought, oh, well, she's in the healthcare landscape. She's in sales, like this will be easy for her. But, kind of what we do is the opposite of hospice. I mean, hospice is a pretty easy sale. You've got somebody that's dying, Medicare pays for it, sign up, it's free. It's right. It's like not really a sale. So, now I understand that. So, in terms of the sales, really my husband, myself, and my Blair are doing that, through the community, going out to different, offices. Of course, we're in a unique situation because my husband is so connected to the healthcare community here. And, we know a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, a lot of care coordinators. So that's been a huge benefit. But at the same time, I don't think you necessarily have to have that, because some of our best businesses come from hospice or from home health, things that he's not necessarily associated with. So then we also have a nurse, and she's kind of, what we decided to do with her is it's more PRN, where because really Blair can handle all the other stuff, and she's more there to do the care assessments and to sign on the train. Like in North Carolina, we have to do competency checks for caregivers. We have to have certain training for them, and all the new owners will learn this. I guess, as in North Carolina, we had to do something called in-home in-home care agency training. And so that was separate from HomeWell. It was something that was just, mandated by the state, but, that taught us a lot about what our specific state needed and required. So that was really good. And then other than that, it's really just, the three of us, really, it's just me and Blair, and then my husband, and on Fridays we'll do stuff. And, we found things like, finding local resources, like for instance, like the Council on Aging, like find that in your area. I mean, they have all kinds of like conferences and seminars all the time. And then we have something called AHEC. It's the Area Health Education Council. It's something that's across the state of North Carolina. And like, for instance, at the end of this month, they're having this huge, it's like a statewide fall prevention conference. And we're going to be a sponsor. We're going to have a booth, and it's everything from providers, home health, doctors, nurses, to families that, are interested in learning about fall prevention. So, we found things like that to be really good resources. And then Blair B, she's really doing like the recruiting, the scheduling, the, that kind of day-to-day interaction with the caregivers, with the clients. And I'm more like high end of billing, payroll, all the taxes, I do have the conversations with the families, about starting service and things like that. But it's really, with the two of us, like mainly full time, it's very manageable, at least at this point in time.
That's the beauty of it. I think exactly how you said it. And thank you for that, because you basically walked us through a day in the life, right? Which again is a lot of people ask that question, is what is it going to look like if I do this? So that was fantastic information again for all of us. But I think it just highlighted, to me anyway, you don't need 25 people to run the agency like this. You get the right people and you put them in the right spots, which again, that's where our help is going to come in. I know, Blair, you're on a weekly call with your franchise business consultant, right? That's helping you and kind of advising you. And I'm sure those are very beneficial conversations that are just helping kind of guide the path to make sure that you're doing it right. But are you doing it right? And that's what our job here is, to ensure that you have the confidence that things are going in the right direction.
Right. And I do think, speaking to that, Mike, one thing that Debbie is my, I don't know what her title is. You said it, my leader, my
FBC, franchise business coach, and, whatever. We have lots of terms for her.
But like, if I'm struggling with something, like maybe I don't know how to deal with okay, we had a client die while one of our caregivers was there. Every day is something. You're like, what do we do? Do we need a policy on this? Does HomeWell have a policy? Who can I reach out to? And so she's really good at either finding resources through HomeWell Corporate for me, or connecting me with other agency owners who maybe encountered a similar situation. And then all the owners are just so open to talking every time. And I reach out to the other owners a lot, just to say, well, how are you doing X, Y, and Z? And I even had a guy in, I think it was like Minnesota or somewhere, sends me his like flow of this is what it looks like for us from the time we get the first call to, starting service. So I do think that's a huge benefit of having the franchise behind you, is all those resources beyond just like the training and the software, but actually the people.
Yeah. And we talk about that a lot on this side of the operation, because it is, while you're in business for yourself, as the franchise corny people will say, you're not in business by yourself. You have a whole team behind you. And if it's not only at the franchisor level, like we provide, but you have a lot of other owners that do it all day, every day. And I think here at HomeWell, what makes us really special is that ownership group, that they want to see you be successful. They will, and I won't speak for you, Blair, but I'm sure if somebody that's on the call today or listening in the future says, man, I want to understand what she did and what they did to be successful, you'd be the first one to say, absolutely, give me a call. And
Yeah,
I think that's what
absolutely.
makes us so powerful.
Well, in
um,
fact, just and you probably have a lot of action items to go through, but just recently, I mean, my parents still are having 24/7 care, though they don't need it anymore. My dad is recovering, and just sort of had a little escalation with the folk, this mom and pop group. And there's a new HomeWell in Greensboro, and we trained at the same time as
yep.
those owners. And literally yesterday, I reached out to Erica Mack and I said, Erica, this is what's happening. I need your help. And she was like, I'll be over there in an hour, and she's at my dad's house and they are now taking care of him. And, because of that, I called the executive director just before this call of the retirement community where they are, to tell him about her and to make sure that he refers all of their residents to her. So it's just a really nice network of like collaboration, but also like friendship. I mean, I just felt like she was my
Yeah.
friend who was like, I'm going to take care of your dad the way I'd take care of my own dad. And I trusted her because I knew that her process and her systems, they might differ from mine slightly. We're still the HomeWell model, which is a model that I trust.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, and I'm so excited that we're all going to be together next week in sunny Tampa. And I say sunny because as I look out my window here in Michigan, it's snowing and it's April 5th.
Oh no.
So I am quite excited to get down to a sunny Tampa and more importantly, have the community of franchise owners all come together to again share good, share the challenges, but at the end of the day, share the fun that we get to have there. Blair, last question for you. And I see we have a question that came in that we'll get to. Any advice for somebody that's going through the education process that is like, hey, is this the right business for me? Because listen, it's got to feel right. It's got to fit well. And to you, obviously, you saw that, you connected, and how you guys are doing. But what advice would you give anybody that's on the fence or looking at this saying, hey, is this right for me? What would your advice be to them if they're in that situation?
That's a tough one. I mean, I can't really say why it would be right for one person versus another, but um, I think, it was pretty scary, I'll admit, when we started all of this. And the learning curve, like I said, and I think it would be this way with any business that we opened, is you got to get through that, and you got to be dedicated to doing the training and to learning the systems. But I mean, I think it's right for me personally because, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, we have a lot of fun in my office. I mean, we're constantly meeting so many interesting people. We meet families, we see situations. We'll say, "Oh my God, I've seen it all," and then the next day we're like, "Nope, nope, haven't seen it all. We've seen something new." And so it's actually, I mean, there's times like with any business where it's really stressful, but it's I'm a people person and I love interacting with people. And so I love the opportunity to not only see like the families and like how we can help them, but to see like the clients and just the way, they're so grateful for the caregivers that we have. And then also to get to know our caregivers, because my business model has really been to focus on our caregivers and to make sure taking care of them, because I heard all these horror stories from the beginning of, oh, it's so hard to keep caregivers, is this, is that. And I mean, to be honest, that is not what we've experienced, but it's because I've put so much emphasis on them. I pay them better than any other company, but I feel like that's going to pay dividends for me because our caregivers don't call out. They're calling and begging for work because they love our company. They love the way we treat them. We have all kinds of little incentives or lunches. And, it's fun to me to have them come in and to get to know them. I mean, we'll do like Chick-fil-A, if like at the end of it, we had a 24/7 who ended up going into a facility. And at the end of that, we had a little lunch for everybody. And it was just fun to get to know them and to hear the stories about, their experiences. So, I mean, I think if you are a people person, or even if you're not, if you're a business person, I mean, there's definitely a lot of business behind it, but I think the people, like, just it's not a boring business. So I mean, it's not like
There's
a dry
always a lot
cleaning
going
business.
on, isn't there?
It's say that again.
I said there's always a lot going on, right? I mean, that's the good thing about being a business owner is no 2 days ever look alike. And
Never.
and again, that's why we're going to be here. As a franchise, we have seen it all. And that's why we're here to answer those questions. There was a couple questions that came in. I really love this question. So Jeffrey, thank you for asking this, because this is one that is not a numbers or anything else question. It's how nervous were you when you first opened your doors?
Oh my gosh, scared to death. So scared. I mean, like, yes, of course I was scared. But so we opened the door at, well, like I said, so I had my employees come in like November, kind of, just one at a time, not on purpose, but just because of their availability. And so that was good, because there are a lot of learning modules through something that HomeWell has called the Learning Lab, which teaches them a lot about not only what HomeWell does, but the home care industry and then their particular role. So we could kind of focus on that. And then there's also a lot to learn with the software system. I don't know if anybody's in medicine, but my husband says it's similar to like what they use for patients. They use a system called Epic, but it's basically just a tracking system. And I gotta say, like, that was a little overwhelming, but the support and customer service from WellSky, that's the name of the platform, is outstanding. Like, they have office hours every single day. I mean, for the first couple of weeks, I was on it every single day and asking a question and having them walk me through it. So once I felt like there was that kind of support in place, I felt a lot better. And then I saw my team and what we were doing. And we actually got our very first client. We got our license December 11th, December 28th, we got our first client, and it was a 24/7. So we were kind of thrown in the water, and they said swim, and we figured it out and, made it work. But once we got through like a week with that, I was like, we can do anything. Like, we've just had the hardest, possible client right out. And it was a difficult family. It was a strange kind of situation, but we handled it with grace, and our team was awesome. So yeah, I was scared to death, but I'm not anymore. I feel very confident, and I feel like anything that comes up, we just we can handle it, either through our team or through the support with HomeWell. I mean, there's always a solution. So, and so many resources out there.
That's awesome. Well, we have just a couple of minutes left, as I want to be conscious of your time, Blair, and thank you again for joining us today. I'll wrap these questions into one kind of bundle here, and I think it'll hit the head. So, David, thank you for asking these. These are fantastic questions, and we're just as a reminder, guys, if we don't answer the question directly today, that's what validation's for. Validation is your time to get one-on-one with our owners and ask these questions to make sure that you understand how we support you in every facet of your business. You mentioned a little bit about hiring too many people in the beginning. Was it more on? I'm assuming it was more on the staffing side, and obviously, I think you said a little bit. You'd probably do it again if you could. And then the second part of that question would be, are you offering benefits to your caregivers, like a 401k, paid time off, or any one of your staff? I'll kind of wrap those two into one question.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just think that I hired too many people. I don't think I needed a salesperson out the bat. I think that I could have done that. I had time, once I had my staff in place, to go out into the community and, network and meet with these various other ancillary, providers, from, assisted living facilities to home health, or, hospice or whatever. I feel like I could have very easily do that, because they were also receptive. And we were just paying her too much, and she was not working very much. So, I felt like she took advantage of that situation. We also had 2 nurses to start, which that was kind of my husband's fault, but his somebody from his practice was retiring and wanted to work part-time, and she really just wanted the benefits, and so her heart wasn't in it. So I think you need to kind of look at that. She just wanted to get, her benefits because she was like 63. She didn't quite get Medicare. So I mean, those are just important things to look at. But I forgot. Oh, the benefits. So yes. So for my in-office employees, we pay 100% of their medical insurance and 50% vision and dental. And we did that because, like I said, our sort of model has been to recruit the best people, whether it be admin staff or caregivers, because they know that we're taking care of them. And if we're taking care of them, they're going to take care of us. And so, yes, so we do offer the benefits for our in-office salaried employees. For the caregivers, no, we do not offer benefits. It is too, I mean, at this point in time, because we've not even been in business for 4 months, they come and go, and our come and go. And I mean, we have great times, and it seems very cyclical times when all of a sudden we've got 5 new clients and we're scrambling, and then something happens and all of a sudden we're in a lull. So, and then those caregivers have got to find work. But we have a great, now we're more steady and we've got a great core. I do offer a lot of incentives for the caregivers. So we do things like, because I was mostly scared about people not showing up, especially with our first client being 24/7. So we came up with a policy where if you show up for your first 3 shifts on time without calling out and no issues, you get a $25 gift card. Okay. That doesn't seem like a lot to me and you, but it sure makes a difference for them. We have employee referral programs, where if they refer their friend to come work with us and the friend works a certain number of shifts, then the friend and them get a little gift card. We also do something that we found is really helpful called weekend on call, where we've got like maybe 5 really amazing caregivers where they're on call for the weekend, but they may have to go in, they may not. But if somebody calls out, they take that shift and they get paid for that shift, but they also get a $75 bonus for the weekend. So, I don't give like traditional benefits, but I think the benefits that I'm giving them are what really matter to them, because in all honesty, most of them have insurance through Medicaid. So it's not like a deal breaker for them. They just want to get paid.
Yeah, I think that's a question that comes up a lot, is how do you, it's not about attracting the caregivers, is about retaining the good ones, right? And while doing those things, exactly what you talked about, is different creative ways to engage with them, and they're going to want to work for you, right? You said it yourself. This business model, you have to put in the effort in the beginning, and while you build your culture, which is exactly what you're talking about, that's the important part. And I think you guys are doing just a tremendous job with it, Blair. This has been a fantastic interview and time spent. I think a ton of insight can be gained from this. I know we had a few more questions come in. I would ask you, if we didn't get a chance to answer your question, please feel free to reach out to your development director. We can get those answered. And if you guys, as you start to go through the validation process, if you want to speak with Blair, I'm sure she'd be more than happy to bend an ear and to have those calls with you, just to give you her experience as well. So Blair, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
I apologize that my video is not working.
That's okay.
I look really cute, I promise, but next time.
Well, we appreciate
it.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We look forward to meeting you next week in Tampa, and everybody have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you, everybody.
You as well. Thank you. All right. Have a good day.